he's certainly saying all the correct things. His first real time in front of the media since been appointed at Spurs, Danny. Do we think he's going to be fundamentally different to what perhaps we saw at Manchester United?
No, not fundamentally. He's got the same principles. He'll have the same work ethic. He'll expect the same things, the same sort of standards from players. I don't think he's going to take, too many prisoners. He might have mellowed and softened round the edges a little bit, but I think you can tell there he's got his verve back. He's got a twinkle in his eye. He looks excited to be part of this. He's got a very good squad of players. You have to say it's all a bit disjointed at the moment. But we've seen before, if anybody can pull a team together, out of sort of adversity, Mourinho can do it.
We did swagger into English football 2004 in a certain way. This feels like a slightly different approach. Does it strike you, Carlton, as a manager that's aware of the perception of how he comes across when he talks about he's made mistakes? He wants to not atone for them, but learn from them. Do we see? You've got to think that under there, just bubbling under the surface. I mean, the old fighter's there, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. If you know him really well. It's a thing that you don't just change overnight. He's always going to have that swagger. He's always going to have that self-confidence and belief. Definitely you can humble yourself, but is that what we want to see as fans? I'm not sure.
Would you rather see the kind of huge personality?
You do. You want to see that. That's what makes the Premier League exciting.
Even today in his press conference, wasn't it, when he got asked, what's it? Do you think the players got a hangover from the Champions League final, having losing the Champions League? He went, I've never lost one. And you think he's back?
Still there.
Yeah, it's still there. Don't worry about that. But that's what you want. It's kind of says we want that excitement. I think he's one of the best managers out there, best coaches there is around. Huge respect for what he's done. I think he is very much Marmite. He's a little bit like Eddie Jones in rugby. Everything seems premeditated. He knows exactly what he's doing, what he's saying, and why. And if he gets that team together, which is massively disjointed at the moment, you look at the defenders. Vertonghen and Alderweireld. He wanted Alderweireld several times. He's tried to buy him. Danny Rose he's tried to buy. They have been probably the best partnership as a centre-back pairing in the past 4 or 5 seasons, 3 or 4 seasons at least. If he gets them playing well, and he gets a couple in front of that, and then you've got the front players that they've already got, there's a lot of potential at that football club. And he might just say, we know he's about short-termism the next couple of years. He might say to Alderweireld and Vertonghen, you know what, here's a couple-of-year deal. I want you to stay while I'm here and I'll work with you. And then Eriksen might think, oh, hang on a minute, I fancy a little bit of this, because actually we might go win something. So, massive year now for Tottenham.
Before we get into the nitty-gritty, perhaps, of what he's been like in the past, from a spending point of view, he said there's no money to spend. He's kind of mooted that he's not going to start demanding money, which for Daniel Levy must be music to his ears, because he's not one to go steaming out to throw money at people. But is that... Going off what Danny just said there, Carlton, has he got the squad there to be able to challenge? We've heard it needs reinvigorating, we've heard it needs a different set of eyes and a different voice to listen to. Is the squad there to be able to challenge? Definitely,
it's a great squad. Nothing's really changed since last season. Pochettino had them playing brilliant football last year. This year, definitely, when you have a new, when you have a new manager, it gives you that real boost to go and do well. And the shirts are up for grabs at the moment, and I think he's definitely going to give them that insight on how to be the players that they all know they're going to be.
Well, who in your mind, or springs to mind with regard to who needs to be able to step up? Who's he got to get more out of?
Oh, of course, Dele Alli is the definite candidate there. You got to look at Danny Rose as well. I'm sad that they replaced Trippier, because I think he's a fantastic player. But it is what it is, and he's got what he's got there, and I know that he's going to get the best out of them.
Is that similar names for you, Danny?
Yeah, I think he'll be looking for a right-back. I know they've got high hopes for Foyt going in there. Obviously, has played for Argentina in that position. But I think he'll want somebody maybe solid in there. Again, the Trippier issue, not quite sure why he left, and for such a small fee, realistically, 20 million. And I think he might want to add maybe a couple in January, possibly loan deals or even free transfers, maybe a little bit of support for Harry Kane. And that's why I think, it might seem a little bit extreme, but he might go for Zlatan.
Do you reckon?
He's out of contract. He's a free agent. They have a history together where Zlatan absolutely loves him. he would be a marketing dream for the football club. How many shirts would he sell in the first couple of days? That's his wages paid for.
Yeah.
He's a winner. You know, by all accounts at Manchester United and every club he's been at, he sets the standards in training. He would be Mourinho's general in the dressing room that he likes. We know that. I don't see a downside. Not expecting him to play week in, week out. He wouldn't expect that. And if you need to bring Harry Kane off for 20, 30 minutes and a different option, you can bring on a winner, a leader. And imagine if he walked into that dressing room. It would give all those players as well such a boost.
We're looking at almost like a Cantona effect for the younger players to see, because he looks after himself. He trains very well, doesn't he?
He sets examples, and he's a winner, and that's what Tottenham don't really have in that dressing room. And he's going to cost Daniel Levy next to nothing. So I think that would be a real possibility, and I wouldn't be surprised if Mourinho goes for that type of player.
Carlton, when you look at the reaction to obviously the appointment, it's. As Danny said, there's a Marmite effect to this, isn't there? It's polarised opinion in the sense of what Pochettino at his very best with Spurs was. It was all heart. It was a wonderful way of playing football, which really energised both players and fans and the club alike. Yeah. Now but off the back of that, no silverware. You bring Jose in, 20 major trophies under his belt, a serial winner. Yeah. So do we think that Tottenham have built something that they're now walking away from, or is it an evolving process?
No, for me. It's an evolving process, that's the right word to say. Obviously, Poch came in, done what he's had to do, 5 years at the club, got them to a place that they never dreamed of getting, because, you know, there was always getting up there and failing. They're right there now, they're right at the cusp, and maybe no disrespect to Poch, maybe they need something like Mourinho that knows how to win, knows how to get trophies, knows the Champions League, knows all of those sort of stuff. So I think it's a great asset to have, and just to get winners, you need a winner to lead the troops.
Let's throw forward hypothetically. If they end this season with the trophy, if they perhaps, as Jose is talking about, they can't challenge this year, but they can challenge for the title next year. If Tottenham suddenly end up with the Premier League title. The year after next, do they suddenly go, well, it's not been as pretty, but wow, look at this big shiny trophy.
You're not bothered how you play. If you start winning trophies, playing the way you play is a secondary issue. You know, players, fans, if you're winning silverware, it's okay. If you're not, then it's about how do we play. Everybody wants to try and play like Manchester City and Liverpool and win things. That's not possible for everybody. We know that Mourinho does it a slightly different way. We've seen it every single club that he's been at. You know, Porto. He came in at Chelsea. Of course, went to Inter Milan. He's done it. Manchester United even won trophies. You know, won the Europa League there, European trophy. Finished second as well. I think they will now have a real chance. But I think let's not forget what Pochettino did. Went from 5th to 3rd, 2nd, 3rd, 4th Champions League final. Without Pochettino, who did a fabulous job. Results in the past, especially away from home, haven't helped the last year. He's tailed off a little bit. He hasn't been helped. He was never backed by the club. He was never given that additional support of bringing players in. And that makes it very, very difficult. So I think he leaves with dignity. His credentials all intact. But they would have never got a coach like Mourinho if Pochettino hadn't got him to this place in the first place. So I think Mourinho was right in his press conference to thank him, to say that he's always welcome. 4 years ago, Mourinho would have never even dreamed of it. And he said that when he was at Chelsea at the time, and he said, I would never go to there. But then again, he was funny. He said, well, yeah, I said that, and then I got,
then I got sacked.
And then I got sacked. You know, and things changed. So he's, you know, again, you can see he's got that engagement already with the fans, with the press, and he looks back. But he's a winner, and he will give that mentality of winning is everything, and that's what sport is all about.
Well, the stick that is sometimes used to beat Mourinho with is when it comes to younger players. And how he doesn't necessarily, or the perception is that he doesn't necessarily give these younger players their actual crack at the first team. But at Chelsea and at Manchester United, there was elements of players where names do stick out that he managed to blood. There's a few names here, Carlton, that we can look at that, I mean, for better or for worse, players that have gone on and either done it at the actual club or moved on to pastures new. But it's not a lot of players, but there's still younger players there within two very big clubs.
Yeah, look, I think I've seen it firsthand. When you're looking for instant success, and he is going to be looking for that right now because he has to make an impact straight away, you're not going to go for the youth straight away. It's just normal that you need your players, your big-time players, to actually step up to the plate. But and then later on down the line, when things might not be going your way, then you bleed in the youth. But right now, I think for him, he could have a head start and actually bleed in the youth earlier, if there is any youth to bleed in at the moment. By the way,
is at the mercy of how good the actual
Exactly.
younger players are.
So I would counter that and say, well, how many youngsters has Pep brought through at Manchester City? There aren't many.
No.
In fact, there's none in the first team, at the moment.
You say that, but he'll buy a player, a ready-made player that's already good, but he can develop them into a better player. There's where he gets the
Liverpool. It's only Trent Alexander-Arnold that's in the first team at the moment that's come through their academy. When you're at top clubs, the standard is so high, it's very difficult for these players. It's difficult when you're buying 20, 30 million pound players to get into that squad. So a player coming through the academy system is ultra difficult for them to get in. So it's not always the manager's fault. When Chelsea was a machine at producing players for other clubs, Liverpool has done the same. Manchester United has done the same down the years. It's what happens. To get a game in the Premier League or a high Championship club is all right, but to play in like the top four of the Premier League, coming through the youth system, is always going to be incredibly difficult.
So if you were a younger player, would there be a note of caution sounded when you look at what Mourinho does when he goes to a football club? You look at the window, the first window that he gets. he's been able in the past at the clubs he's been at to really chuck some serious cash around pretty quickly, hasn't he?
Yeah, but that's.
I mean, that United figure's staggering.
But why do you bring in Mourinho? Because you want success, and you want success by the second season. And to do that, he's going to buy ready-made players.
Yes.
He hasn't got time to work with them. Guardiola's first season didn't win anything. Finished fourth in the league. Now, Manchester City had a long-term plan, had the finances to do that.
So they were spending before he was even
but
in the building.
But not many clubs have the patience to do that. If you want to get back into the top four, you want to challenge for the title. You want ready-made players, and so you're not going to trust, because young players are always inconsistent. That's always going to happen. They're going to be up and down. It's just what young players do, isn't it? So if you want instant success, of course he's going to go with ready-made players.
The manager that we see in the press conference, the manager that was at Chelsea first time around, what we've seen in recent seasons where you've got Klopp, megawatt personality, huge charisma, you've got Pep along those same lines, it's a bit more fractious at times, obviously. Even probably Brendan Rodgers to a certain degree. You've got a slightly different model of manager, which arguably you could say is what Jose kicked off when he first came over here. He was the young buck, he was the man chasing down the bigger guns. Now that those roles have reversed, we're talking about a manager 56 years old, still relatively young when it comes to management. Do we get the feeling that that's where the motivation comes from? Because he's had nearly a year to sit for everyone to pontificate and say, well, he can't do this anymore, he's living in the past, etc. Does that have him coming back in fully fueled up and ready to prove people
definitely.
wrong?
He's been sitting at home and people have been saying, reading newspapers, and people have been having a go at him and saying he's not this, he's not that. Then he'll have his excuses of why it didn't happen for him at Man United. And then he's come here to set a record straight this time. And I think knowing Mourinho, he's definitely going to do what he has to do to make sure he's got the best opportunity to do that and make sure that he does he's got all the options in front of him and he's got all the cards at his table, and now he's keeping everything close to his chest. But I still want to see the old Mourinho come out, and that's what everybody knows and loves.
So you said it, you've got first-hand experience of that.
Yeah.
What is it about the man at his very, very best that makes him one of the very, very best?
Well, he's always got a plan, and he's a psychologist as well. So so people that don't know him, he's a people's man. He's there for his players. He always protects his players first and foremost. For me, he's always done that until it gets to a point where you can't protect them no more, and then he has to kind of throw them under the bus because he's got to save his own skin.
Like what happened at Manchester United,
so
didn't it? Yeah.
As long as he's got the players on side, he's going to have his meetings when he goes into Spurs. He's going to have his meetings. He's going to tell them exactly what he wants from them, and hopefully they come through for him. Otherwise, he's going to be doing what he has to do and if he has to get rid, but if he has to release a few players and bring some in, that's what he's going to do. And he's not going to really care who's upsetting.
Well, I mean, it's elite level sport at the very highest degrees. And I know, Danny, that he's a manager that you would I've absolutely loved to play for.
Without a shadow of a doubt. I've seen it sort of from the sidelines and been around it and seen him in press conferences and all the rest of it. And same sort of thing. He is meticulous in everything he does, and he doesn't forget.
Yeah.
I introduced my boys are Chelsea fans, and I was introduced. I was a physio there, and sort of signed shirts in the dressing room after one game. 2 years later, and it was after Chelsea had gone to Man City and beat them on that. There was a Monday Night Football, and he'd done about 1,000 interviews. And clearly, he's not frazzled, but, he'd been doing a lot of stuff. And I was in the tunnel, and he walked out and just said, I bet your boys enjoyed that one. And it was like, wow. 2 years later, he's remembered, he remembered me, but remembered that I brought my boys in and they were Chelsea. And it's like, you're thinking, hang on a minute, this is a guy that clearly thinks about absolutely every single detail and doesn't forget. And Carl says, he's a psychologist, he's a people's man. That's what he is. There aren't too many players out there that have come out, whatever club he's left, and had too many bad words said. There's all be one or two, but generally, he's pretty much been loved.
Yeah. And going off what Carlton said, I mean, even the ones that he perhaps singled out, almost begrudgingly said, well, he might have had a point, to be honest, when he's picking up players for not perhaps working as hard as they should and training as hard as they should.
I don't know if it might have been Joe Cole on here or listening to Joe Cole, and he did a full interview and said, look, he said, I was just desperate to please him. I just wanted him to say, great, well, he used to hammer me constantly, work back, do this. He said, and he knew exactly what I needed. He said, but that odd occasion where he went, that was brilliant. He said, I felt like 9 feet tall. So he said, he gets players, he understands players, and I think he's got the potential there, with Vertonghen, with Alderweireld, with Rose. He's got Lloris comes back in. He's got a really good defence. Yep. He's got some good players. He's got the likes of... He will love Son. He works his socks off. He's up and down. He's got an incredible goal scorer in Harry Kane. He can do whatever on the right-hand side, or maybe Moura, whoever it is. He's got Dele Alli, if he gets him working back and hard again. And suddenly you think, hang on a minute, this is the basis of a real Mourinho team. So I think he knows that he's got a good squad of players, and they're only 3 points off. What's it, fifth place at the moment. So it's probably going to take at least 3 wins to get near that, because other teams will win around them. But it's a great opportunity for him.
He's steamed in, hasn't he, and addressed Harry Kane and told him how much he wants him to stick around. Are we looking at Harry Kane possibly, all the chat about him coming away from Spurs after Pochettino went, maybe would that die down if Mourinho adds something else? I mean, he's absolutely flying, isn't he, at this moment in time? And you get the feeling he's going to be probably one of England's top goal scorers. But can he get him on side? Can he help him force this new look Spurs team forward?
I think Harry Kane's a model pro. He'll go and do what he has to do. Obviously, he's gonna love Mourinho, because Mourinho's gonna make him the main man, the go-getter, and he's gonna basically just bring a new lease of life to the whole squad. So that bodes well for Harry. And look, I think Harry's one of the best strikers in the world. And Mourinho's going to just want him to stick around anyway, so he's going to do everything possible to keep him there.
And if they get that mentality where it looks like they're seriously going to start winning things, so you get to the end of this season and they've had a good back end of the season, and suddenly they're thinking, oh, you know what? We've now got a good squad of players. We've got an incredible manager that wants to win. We are now heading in the right direction. Actually, we can have a serious challenge for the Premier League. Or we can have a serious challenge for the Champions League, and we can win a couple of cups along the way. Those players might suddenly think, hang on, no, maybe actually if we stay here, it's maybe a better chance of winning trophies than perhaps 18 months ago we were thinking, we might have to leave to go and win trophies.
What's a successful opening first half of the season for him, currently in 14th?
I think they'll be up to 6 in no time. I think, can they finish 4th come the end of the season? It'll be tight, but I think that there's every chance that they can go for that. You'd have to say now, if they made top 6, had a real good, got into maybe quarterfinals of the Champions League, I think that would be considered relative success from where they are right now.